First Rodeo Radio, where the race begins. The homies have reached the starting gate, and they're off.
Welcome to the episode of First Rodeo Radio. Today we are joined by Donald Little III. Thanks for joining us, Donald.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Do you go by Donald or do you go by Don?
I go by Donald. I mean, it was always, grandfather was Don, dad was Dew, and I've just kept my name as Donald.
Yeah, I'm in the weird tweener too. It's like Matthew versus Matt. I have like some friends that go by Matthew, some that go by Matt. I just go by Matt. Most people call me my last name actually because it's Skull, so it's pretty ubiquitous. I feel like.
Yeah,
But we appreciate you joining us. We got a third generation racing participant here, vice president of sales at Centennial Farms. You just told me it's the oldest active racing partnership, which I think is a really, really, really cool thing to hang your hat on. You guys, I think, do things the right way. We're just talking about how, you guys, basically your partners are extended family because they're in every year, and I'm sure the vibes are very high when things are going good or bad. I think that's kind of the beauty of racing is you get to enjoy the highs and the lows of it all. And you yourself, I know you came prepared. You're probably the most prepared guest that I've had here. You've been with Centennial about a year and a half, you were saying, but I kind of want to take things all the way back to the beginning. It sounds like you grew up in like an equestrian family. Like it sounds like everybody else is riding. You elected more for the ball and stick sports that I was part of. Soccer, hockey, lacrosse, sort of thing. So maybe you could talk through which of those sports you were best at and kind of your experiences with horses early on.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, I really was kind of born into an equestrian family. My dad played polo professionally all around the world. Grandfather played polo and was a show jumper. My aunt, she rode for a long period of time. My mom rode. Like pretty much everybody in my family did except for me. Like I was on the back of a horse as a little kid, just never really caught that bug that most do. And I really was, like you said, ball and stick sports. Like lacrosse was my big sport growing up. I mean, that was a full-time thing. We'd have summer camps that we'd go to. It was the primary sport. Hockey is another big one. I mean, there was always, like growing up, the family is always very competitive. So my dad played lacrosse as well, and he was my coach growing up. So having him be my coach as a little kid and now my boss, I mean, it kind of does come full circle. But yeah, I mean, it's always been a part of my life being in the racing world, but it's definitely wasn't guaranteed. I mean, I for the longest point in time was like, I don't really know if I want to make this my career, if I want to be a part of this as like a full-time job. It was really something that I knew was sort of always going to be here, but I didn't necessarily know that this was going to be my path until I honestly had the opportunity to go do other things and kind of find my way back to it. So I worked some other sales jobs. I worked at a ski shop for a while. I did some like tech sales, working cybersecurity. So really nothing to do with the racing world, but it just kind of each month I was like still getting notifications of, oh, we've got this horse running, we're doing this and that. And it just, I mean, once you're in it, you always are. And it's been, I mean, I'm very fortunate to be able to have like the history of it, and I've been able to experience a lot of great things in racing just by being present.
For sure. I think it's very cool to kind of see it come like full circle for you in terms of like you kind of tried some other things and then eventually it kind of drew you back. Where'd you play on the lacrosse field? My co-founder Brian, he was a Fogo face-off get-off guy.
I was an attackman. I played at X for my whole life, and it's funny. Some of my buddies, we play in a charity tournament every year, and all of our friends were attackmen. So when we're playing in those tournaments, someone's got to run midfield, and I kind of sort of found out that that's still never going to be my position, like running back and forth up and down the field just to get gassed and then pulled off. I'd much rather stay at X, facilitate some of the plays starting and go from there. But yeah, I mean, I was the big assist guy. Like I start the plays, make a dodge, dump the ball and get it in.
Yeah, lacrosse is fun. I didn't grow up playing. I was a baseball guy through high school.
Yeah.
but my brother played, Brian played, so I was always around lacrosse. And it's
Yep.
funny, like they play in a charity tournament in the Jersey Shore every summer. It's called the War at the Shore. And I suited up one game, you know, couple beers deep. My debut did not go well. I was definitely better off playing midi, just being the guy that ran back and forth and stood in front of somebody, because my stick skills were not there. you could ask Brian one day how my like first pass as a lacrosse player went.
Yeah, probably not great. It's a tough sport. It really is. But I mean,
it looks pretty easy when you're just like watching it. Similar to hockey too. You're like, oh, everyone's just buzzing around.
Yeah, no, it is.
But yeah, it sounds like you grew up in the Mid-Atlantic, like New England area, and then went to all boys school, like boarding school up at Connecticut. That right?
Yep.
Tell me a little bit about that, like that experience. It had to be interesting, like, at that age to kind of go off to boarding school. It sounded like you were in school 6 days a week, I guess. What were some of the takeaways from that experience?
It's actually kind of funny. So the reason I ended up there is one of Centennial's original founding partners with my grandfather, longtime friend, Tony Woodruff. He was on the board at Salisbury, and he's like, I've known Donald his whole life. He's a perfect candidate for this place. And when, like, I was a kid, I had cousins that went to boarding school, and I thought that was such a cool thing. It's like, oh, you get to go live at school. This sounds so much fun. So I had always sort of known I wanted to do that. But when that opportunity came by and was like, yeah, you should go look at this school, I was like, all boys? I'm like, absolutely not. But I had toured the school, and it is just a phenomenal place. Like, I was in a position where growing up, I needed a little growing up to do. I mean, boys kind of have that in them in their teens and everything. So being able to, coat and tie every day, classes 6 days a week, half day Wednesdays, half day Saturdays, because it was very sports oriented. Like, a lot of the teams, I mean, you travel a couple hours on like the weekdays to just go and play a different team because you needed some really good competition. And the sports at Salisbury are very, very good. I mean, when I was there, they won their New England championship for hockey 3 out of 4 years I was there. Like, growing up in New England, like, I'm used to good championships. I mean, the Pats are back at it again, going for another playoff run. And that just kind of stuck throughout high school too. I mean, it was like every year there was another championship, whether it be hockey, football, baseball, lacrosse. Like, it was competitive. But what was so cool about it is they really talk about the brotherhood there, and being a good brother, being a good son, husband, boyfriend, whatever it is. Like, they do a great job at kind of forming the man, which I think is kind of like a lost art. But it was really cool because it was another connection to the racing world. So we actually, this past year in Saratoga, we hosted a small like alumni gathering with some of the Salisbury friends, family, extended people there, and finding people that were in the racing world or starting to join. It was nice to kind of bridge those gaps. Because it's the same thing. It's a small boarding school, so they do become your family. And being able to kind of have that component in the racing world too, like, it was a good group between the two, which was, I'm very fortunate for it. Like, I think I grew up a lot. I learned a lot from being there, and it was really just kind of a good thing for me at that point in time.
Yeah, sounds like a fun experience, and that led into you going to Syracuse. Sounds like you had some architecture dreams that you went into. It ultimately landed on economics.
Yep.
You said you were part of Phi Delta too. I also did Phi Delta at Clemson. So, but there's in the bond and all that fun stuff. So maybe talk through a little bit about like your time in college, kind of what you were thinking about back then. If you could kind of put yourself in that mind frame of, all right, like, you just graduated from boarding school. I'm sure you had tons of different options, kind of why you landed at Syracuse, kind of what you were thinking going in, and then kind of how things progressed.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny. So when I would have been a junior going into senior year in high school, they start the whole college process pretty early, just getting you to like see what you might want to do, like choose a major, or at least a way to narrow down the kinds of schools you were looking at. So for me, I've always had like a pretty creative side. I like all of our electives. I filled those up in like my first year at Salisbury. So I was like, okay, I want some sort of creative major, but I'm not really going to just go get like an art degree. I just didn't really see that as something that would be useful for me because I liked the art, but it wasn't like a full-time thing. So I was like, okay, and this is really just kind of I probably decided this in a week or so. It was like, okay, I want a creative major that's not art. Here's architecture. I'm decent at math. Like, let's go with this. So I had looked at, and it's funny, Syracuse was really the only cold weather school. Like, I had applied to Kentucky, Tennessee, Clemson, Auburn, University of Florida. Like, I was going south to a big school, and that was my plan. Like, number one school was Kentucky. I had toured there, got a nice letter of recommendation, and that was the plan, but ended up kind of a similar situation with Salisbury, where one of our, and actually current co-owners of Centennial, was also on the board, and he was like, I've known you my whole life. You need to go and take a look at this school, meet with some people. Like, I think you will like it. And I'd met with the dean of the architecture program, and they sold me. I was like, they rolled out the red carpet. I was like, this place is great. I mean, I'm getting all this attention. This is a great program. I mean, when I got there, it was a top 3 architecture program in the country. And when I got my acceptance letter, I'm like, I'd be dumb not to go give this a try. And got to school. Really, I thought it was awesome. I just got burnt out. I mean, it is a very rigorous program, and they do that intentionally to try and weed out the ones that aren't 100% sure. And I made honor roll my first semester, and then turned around and racked up a bunch of terrible grades and was like, okay, maybe this isn't my calling. So swapped out of that program, and then swapped into, because I really at that point was like, well, here goes all of my game plan. I don't really know what I'm going to do now. So I was like, okay, find something that I'll be able to kind of apply to wherever I end up later on. I was like, okay, economics degree. No one's going to look at that and say, why did you do that per se? So it was a lot of good choices, I think, just to give myself a broader horizon instead of be so specific. And then, I spent a lot of time with my fraternity brothers, and a lot of them, I actually have a fair amount of them are now joining into Centennial partnerships because of the experiences that we were able to have. So Syracuse being only like 2 hours from Saratoga, it was always the first week of school or first 2 weeks of school were not very rigorous. Half the classes were empty for some of the days. So we would pack up the cars and load up, and we'd go to Saratoga for like the last week. So we'd get Traverse, which now it's Gold Cup weekend and was the Woodward at that point in time. So we'd just load up and we would just go. And it was such a fun experience because it was so different than anything you'd get by just being at Syracuse. Like it wasn't terribly difficult, like timing, like you could get there in a couple hours. It was a straight shot, and everybody liked the idea of, oh, we'll get dressed up, we'll go to the track, we'll bet on some horses, we'll get some nice dinners, bounce around at the bars, and then we'll go back and we'll be a class on Monday. So it was really awesome because I think what was so fun about it is I was able to kind of share with them my world, and it is really unique, and it's definitely not normal, like being just like, oh yeah, let's go here, let's go there, let's do this. And it was like one of my buddies that I brought, he was like, he'd never been to a horse race, and he's like, this is the most fun I've ever had. And now he's in one of our partnerships. So I think that it was a good location that I was up in Syracuse. I think that it was really kind of crucial to, the network that I got there was great. They're all very receptive to it. Now I get like every year, the week before the Derby, it's like, I am the token guy. It's like, hey, who you got? What are your picks? What's going on? And I'm like, guys, I haven't talked to you in like months, but hey, I guess there's one thing in common. You remembered that experience, and like, you always come back to it, which I think is so cool. Like leading by example, bringing people in, like, you guys do a great job with trying to promote new ownership, new people into the industry, even if it's just eyes on the sport. It's so important because like I've heard stories growing up with like, oh, so-and-so's grandfather brought them to the track and they fell in love with it. And that's sort of a timeless thing. Like I've got buddies that it's happened to, and like it's happened to people that were my dad's age and grandparents' age. It was just a very unique experience being able to kind of do that on my own, bring some of my buddies to Saratoga. And now we've got plans going down to the Pegasus. I've got like 6 or 7 guys that are just game. They're like, all right, Pegasus this year, like we're going. I'm like, all right, sounds good to me.
Yeah, I think that's probably my favorite thing about racing is the fact, because I have a very similar experience. I think anybody within horse racing kind of has their derby, just like group of people that'll text them off to the side asking for picks. I think that's what's really fun for me is, okay, it's kind of a reason to reconnect with old friends, as well as like, it's the reason why you can get together and plan trips to these places now. And there's nothing quite like that, and it's funny. I usually have a big group for the Derby, and it's always, I sit everybody down. Okay, here's how you read the form, and there'll be like 5 guys there. One guy will definitely fall in love and like get into reading the book.
Yeah.
One guy's like, all right, just give me your picks. I'm gonna be degenerate. There's another guy that's like, he's interested, he's like gambling, so he's like pitter pattering around. And the other 2 guys are just there to get hammered. Look at the pretty girls. I think that's what's great about it is like,
Yeah,
there's something for everybody to go to the track.
absolutely. It's so funny because each year, like I'll bring some new people around to the track. And I kind of feel like a broken record sometimes trying to be like, okay, so this is how you read it. These are these bits of information here. This will help you like get an educated guess. And then some of them I'm like, I know you're not going to read this and I know you're not going to look at it. So pick a number, pick a name, pick a horse that you think you like. And honestly, as long as they're not the complete long shot, you probably got a decent shot at it. And it is funny kind of year in and year out. It is pretty much the same conversation over and over.
Yeah, it's fun. So it sounds like after college, you finally got your warm weather wish and moved down to Florida and, took a few different jobs and, other sales around. And you're like, good stories there, like lessons learned in that, like selling something completely different.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Me going down to Florida was sort of like a 2-part thing. I had I think it was like 3 credits left, or like 3 classes, 6 credits, something like that, finishing up at Syracuse. So I had kind of figured out that I had some transfer credits allowed. So I had taken all my classes online through LSU for like $600 a piece versus I think it was like 4 or 5 times that per class at Syracuse. So I knew that Florida was still open, racing was still going on, polo was still going on. Like it was still lively. So I had gone down there, finished up school, started applying to jobs, and then came back to Boston, worked in like tech sales and medical software sales. And that was dialing for dollars. Like that, like one of the jobs that I was at was like 200 calls a day. And I respect people that can do the cold calling grind, but it's not easy. I mean, you're getting no almost every time. So I think for me, the biggest thing is like learning that no is going to happen and just being resilient and staying optimistic and keep moving forward, because that's totally applicable to being in the racing industry. Because I mean, most of the time it's not going to go well. So you're going to have no's, you're going to have bad days at the track, and kind of being resilient from that. It was a good experience, even though it's not like medical device sales or medical like software sales. It has nothing to do with racing. Like the people I was calling had like that. It's not applicable in the actual like realm, but it's learning no was huge. And I think just being able to sell anything is also important, because especially in racing, like it's not like a regular investment where you can say, okay, here's your possible returns. Like we call it more of like a lifestyle investment, where you really are putting the money in for the experience and the potential. I mean, obviously the potential for winnings is great. Like you can make money at it, but don't expect a loss. And I mean, that's why there's good tax breaks for it, because most of the time it's going to be a loss. But when you do get those wins, it makes up for it. Like it's not even close.
I think we kind of echo the same things we're talking to people about racing. So I guess maybe you could touch upon, okay, you kind of decided you wanted to go back to work for Centennial. I guess what kind of excited you about the opportunity to, kind of go full circle and work your way back into it?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I was lucky enough, that my dad was always willing to have me back and be a part of it. I think what excited me the most was it just felt like my normal. Like I almost felt like there was a part missing from my life. Like I mean, don't get me wrong, I was enjoying myself in Boston. Like I was having a good time still, like carrying on smartly, but there was a component missing. So being able to have the opportunity to rejoin Centennial and kind of be a good steward of the game and bring other people in, like I was just excited to be a part of it and really kind of take on the responsibility and the challenges of raising money to go and buy these horses and run these partnerships. And it was just, I don't know. I felt that if I didn't go do this, it would be almost like a disservice to myself. Like we have horses at our farm in Ipswich we actually have a couple of our retired stakes horses there, and driving in the driveway, you see them all in their paddocks, and it would feel wrong to not be a part of it, not have them in my life. And being able to join Centennial when I did, like I joined at a great time. I mean, this past year, I mean, we had 25 starters, and out of that, 7 wins, 8 seconds, and a third, and over $1 million in earnings at the track. Like, I mean, that's not bad for being under my first year. And I will say, like, convenient timing. I mean, I joined when it was good, and I also know that I've seen it on the other end when you don't have that many wins, and you sort of have to know that part is gonna be a thing. Like you got to be I always call my dad the internal optimist. Like he's just always positive about it because he knows, like, if you stay positive and you keep going, you will be rewarded on the other end. Like every handful of years we get lucky enough to just hit a big one. And I mean, that is a kudos to the original team, like Dr. Carr and Paul Parsons. They do a phenomenal job at helping pick out all of our horses. And I mean, they've been with Centennial since the start. So being able to, like, I was excited to be able to join something that's been really established and like has a really good track record. And I don't know, it felt like the right time. And I'm kind of somebody that just goes by my gut feeling, and it just felt right. And I haven't looked back, and I don't plan on ever looking back.
Oh yeah. Is there anything like surprising that like you kind of came in with some preconceived notions that completely flipped on you? Like anything major surprises that way?
Not a ton, just because I've been around it my whole life. Like even when I wasn't full-time working for Centennial, I mean, I was like always at the track, always go to the Belmont every year. Like it was, I sort of knew what I was getting into. I mean, I think the biggest thing is how difficult it is year in and year out to find new partners that are willing to take it's a pretty good chunk of change and put it towards like our racing partnerships. And that's not easy. And I sort of knew that going into it, but I guess I sort of kind of got a rude awakening. I was like, yeah, I got this. This will be no problem. Like I'm used to it, but it's constant work. You really have to be creative with it. I mean, like I started a newsletter for Centennial, and I was like, okay, this might be a good way to attract some other eyes onto the sport, even if it doesn't mean directly correlating to a new investor. Maybe somebody reads it, hey, pass it on to their friend, and they're like, oh, great, this might be a place to look for and join eventually at one point. So, but yeah, I mean, not a ton of surprises, just because, I mean, I had said this earlier. I mean, there's baby pictures of me at the track that I've got no memories of, and it's sort of just in my blood. So I didn't really have a ton of like surprises per se.
Yeah. I think like difficulty getting people on board. For me, the struggle at the beginning was like I knew like I loved it so much for so many different reasons. And it was just like understanding that people are coming at this in like different angles. They're gonna appreciate it for different reasons. Like the whole like derby, like reading the form kind of example. It's the same thing for ownership too, where it's like some people, you know, they're coming in it from this angle. They kind of want to just dress up, have a reason to go out, have a reason to get behind the scenes. Some people want to just learn the entire sport. And for me, it was like I love something so much. So it was like having to verbalize every single thing I love and try to figure out what people like really were gonna latch onto. It's like taking me a while to like, you know, accept that people don't understand completely. I knew it's like it's already kind of like this niche thing, but like just kind of messaging that passion into something that's a little bit more beginner friendly.
Yeah.
It's something that like I've had to like hone over the last like 4 years doing this.
Yeah, no, and it's definitely not easy because everybody does have a different reason for it. I mean, like I know people that are in it solely for the tax benefits. They're like, yeah, I mean, chances are this is going to be a total loss, so I'm going to get the tax break and we'll be in the clear. But if we do win, that's awesome. And then there's people that try to look at it as a way to make money, and that's I like more power to them, but that's not easy. I mean, it's like we've been doing it for 40 plus years, and like we're fortunate enough to do all right with it, but it's don't try to join the racing industry just to make money. It's that you're going to be in for a rude awakening with it. And then there's people that are like, we're lucky to have a lot of other equestrian individuals, whether it's polo players or show jumpers or people that are just fans of horses. So we try to do, I mean, we're lucky that we have those people, because then explaining the sport is the only thing we have to do versus explaining the animal and the sport. Because I feel as though trying to explain to somebody, hey, yeah, your horse isn't at the track yet because it's going to take 6 months for them to recover from something. Hearing that of like, okay, well, what am I going to do for 6 months? I just gave you guys this money and now I have nothing. That is a tough thing to explain to people. But once they understand that it's part of it and that's not the end of the world, you tend to have happy people because they just like to be involved. I mean, having good partners and good clients, I mean, like I said it earlier, they become part of the family. And like being able to have those memories, like being able to go to the Breeders' Cup this year with Antiquarian, like, yes, not the outcome we would have liked, but those are lifetime memories. I mean, you can't put a price tag on that. And I think that's such a cool thing about the racing industry in general is you really could pay a ton of money or not very much, but you're going to have those memories. And like I said, can't put a price tag on that.
So I know you mentioned it. It's been a great year for you guys. And I think, you know, the big horse this year, obviously Antiquarian, and it's really cool. I mean, he's added preservationist to you guys' campaign as well. So maybe you could tell a few Antiquarian stories here.
Yeah, I mean, I will say one of the coolest parts about that is having campaigned preservationist and then having Antiquarian. I mean, he's been awesome for us. I mean, it was like I say, every couple of years we're due for a big one, and having him come in and win the Gold Cup and be so close in the Suburban and the Blame Stakes, being able to really rally. I mean, he's just such an awesome horse. Like he's a lot of the big colts that we've had have usually been pretty mean. I mean, like Corinthian was pretty tough. Wicked Strong was really tough, but Antiquarians, he's very pleasant. I mean, granted, when you see him on the track, he bears down and he means business, but in the stall, like you can have people come up to him and give him mints and give him pats. I mean, granted, still like don't get too comfortable because they are racehorses and they will still bite you, but he's such an awesome horse to have around. I mean, when he goes out to the track, he means business. He stands there like he's the champion, and those types of horses really do have a presence to them. Like I look back to a few years ago, looking at horses like coming through the paddock for grade 1 races at Saratoga, like you can just tell there's a difference, and they really have like almost like a glow to them. Like their coats are always so perfectly manicured, they look great, and they just look like champions. So having one that you just can see that he looks like that, he's always been like he tries so hard, like he has that grit. And when people say, oh, horses don't love to race, I'd say here's a perfect example of a horse that absolutely loves to compete. And he's done a great job. We've been so fortunate that he's been with us for as long as he has, and now being able to campaign him another year. I mean, having partners as well that are willing to keep him around and race him and just be active in it, it's awesome. Like I really can't ask for anything better.
Is he coming back for his 5-year-old year,
Yep.
I think, right?
Yep. He is. So he's currently down at our farm in Middleburg, Virginia. He had planned R&R right now. I mean, at the end of his 4-year-old campaign, but within the next month or so would be my guess. I mean, we don't have an exact timeline, but he'll go back down to Florida and join Todd Fletcher and their team down there. And then give him his time to regain that muscle strength and build back up to his 5-year-old year. And I mean, obviously the goal, he's been at these top level races, and the goal is to be back there again in November. I mean, that's like, we know the talent that he's got there. He's gotten better with time. I mean, Preservationist didn't win his first grade one until he was 6. So giving these horses the time to mature, develop, build that muscle, and he's got the brain for it. He loves to compete. So just doing everything we can to keep him sound, healthy, happy. I mean, that's the goal, because we know he's got the talent. So I'd say probably in the next couple months or so, we'll have a better idea of what we're going to point towards. But ideally, I mean, you don't want to over race them. There's no need to do that at this point. Like, he's proven that you give him I don't know, 7 or 8 weeks between races. It sort of is a good formula for horses like that, where you can really plan out like what your campaign is. So, I mean, I want to say after the Blame, we had like a tentative idea. It's like, okay, if we'll go here, we'll go suburban, we'll do this. And usually when you make a plan in racing, it never goes the way you hope. So when it does, it makes it even more special. And we've been so lucky to have him. So yeah, he'll be back for his 5-year-old year, and we're all very excited about it.
Yeah, he's a fun horse. I think that the older like handicap division, I mean, the last 2 years really we were getting sovereignty and journalism back next year. Like it's a ton of, it's nice that we got like Fierceness and
Yep.
Sierra Leone back this year. So it's nice to kind of see that revitalized, and it's good to see him coming back for sure. And it's crazy, like Preservationist, he shuttled to Korea and unfortunately passed. And right after he passes, of course, that's when Chunk of Gold pops up and
Yep.
Antiquarian pops up. It just kind of how that always happens, which is a shame. But hopefully you see Chunk of Gold versus Antiquarian a race, and
Yep.
love for Preservationist there.
Yeah, no, I mean, and it's tough. I mean, that hurt. That getting that news was not ideal, because I mean, Airdrie had a buyback clause. If one of these guys hit, their intention was to bring him back, and that's life, man. It's just the timing didn't work. I mean, you look at it, say he does get that Blame in Churchill, and maybe he would have been back. I mean, we don't know, but I mean, that's life, unfortunately. But we're so fortunate that at least there are some really good runners from the crops that he did have that sort of are going to be able to carry on those bloodlines at some point or another. At least I would hope so. And having Antiquarian being by Preservationist, like, it's so cool. Like, I can't tell you how amazing it is to be able to be in the winner circle for grade ones with a horse that we then campaigned to son. Like, it's stuff like that. Like, you can't make it up. It's been awesome.
Yeah, when he goes off the stud, it's gonna be really cool, because it's like you might have lost a few extra Preservationists running around, but it's cool that Antiquarian, they carry that name in his five cross pedigree there for years to come.
Yeah, no, it hopefully, fingers crossed, he'll end at a spot that he'll be able to go on and breed some good runners as well.
Yeah, it's awesome. But yeah, no, I think that's we've kind of touched upon like your background, kind of where things at were Centennial and all that. And I think you kind of gave me some talking points too on, I kind of like to structure these like, okay, tell us a bit about yourself, and okay, let's dig into where we think racing can improve things and how to carry the sport forward. And I think one of the things that really I haven't thought through or like verbalized or written down, that was one of the first bullet points you sent me there, was kind of bridging the gap between the old with the new and not just tossing it all away. And I was like sitting on it like, all day yesterday. I was kind of preparing to have this conversation, and it makes sense. Like the tracks to me that are doing the best are the ones that lean into that, old school mentality and pair it with like the new school. I think it's like, I think of Saratoga, I think of Keeneland. You touched upon it with your buddies from college. Okay, we get dressed up, we go to Saratoga. And there's not too many things we get dressed up for anymore. So I think ensuring that we protect that is important too. And it's not something that I've ever considered.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's honestly not talked about enough, because the people that are joining, new people in, like, there's a reason they like it. There's a reason that people are choosing racing to something to follow. And a lot of it, I mean, I tie it back to like my boarding school history, tradition, stuff like that. That stuff does matter. And I've always grown up around it where those things were like they were talked about. I mean, okay, this is how things are done. And by no means am I saying we just stick with the old school, because you do need a level of like change and progression, because you don't want to just get stuck in history. But I do think it's really important, because people aren't joining it just to completely change the industry. They're joining it because there is something there that is valuable. It is fun. Like you said, there's not many places that people have the time to get dressed up for and go experience these places. Like you even said, Saratoga, when they redid that, the new building that they put attached to the grandstand, they did such a good job at marrying the old school like wooden grandstands with new modern technologies. And I mean, the new addition of Belmont Park getting redone, like things like that they're super important. And I think, at least with getting the next generation in, is you want to have them feel like they have a space there, but also feel like they can honor some of those traditions. And like I'm lucky to have had plenty of years of experience around it. And I think that I look at it as something that there aren't many sports that have that old school historic tradition and feel to them. So we'd be dumb to just change it completely because, oh, we gotta stay with the times. And like I don't like you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Obviously, like adding some new tires is always great, but it doesn't need to be completely changed.
Yeah, I was just at Yankee Stadium yesterday. I was at the not yesterday, 2 days ago, the Clemson Penn State game,
Mm.
Pinstripe Bowl, and I just thought back of like old Yankee Stadium versus new Yankee Stadium. I was with my dad. He was telling the story of how I went to Yankee game for my birthday one year because I was born in August, and there's the character of the old Yankee Stadium hasn't to me really crossed the street to new Yankee Stadium. It just
Mhm.
feels very corporate, very sterile. I
Yeah.
think as much as like the new Belmont and the new Pimlico are these opportunities to really, recapture to people that maybe have, been turned off to racing, to recapture those people. I think, like you said, I really hope that, the powers that be are really thinking through, okay, how do we do this in a way that respects kind of where things came from and ensure that we guard that history, that preserve that tradition in these new buildings as well.
Yeah, and you don't want to alienate the people that have propped up the industry for as long as they have, because at the end of the day, someone's got to pay for it. These people got to buy racehorses. These companies got to buy racehorses, and like it's expensive. So you don't really want to come in and be like, "Oh, you guys are doing it all wrong. Like this isn't how it should be done." And it's like, well, who are you to say that? I mean, there is people that they've been like, I'm lucky enough to be the third generation. I mean, I feel like I feel some level of responsibility to kind of keep some of those history things alive and those traditions, but also you do want new, you want life to it, you want to add people in. But that's also where I feel like it's my job to kind of explain why some of the things are the way they are, and like why traditions are the way they are. But I don't know, I think that's what kind of gives it its charm. Like, there's a reason Saratoga is still going and just so lively in the summer. It's because it has that history, because it has the class, it has the charm, and like they haven't tried to just completely gut it and make it brand new and fit within. Like, you're not going to be able to compete with like the NFL on Sundays. Like, it's just not going to happen. So finding your like niche area, and I think having history, tradition, legacy, stuff like that, it's great.
Yeah, 100% agreed. Like on that note too, it's like it's I always go back to, I feel like horse racing in a sense blew a 3-0 lead because it's the only gambling game in town. You see these historical pictures of the grandstands packed, and I've had a lot of conversations over the last like year or two with people that have been in the game for a long time, and I've always kind of asked them, okay, like where do you think kind of things went wrong? Where do you think things went south? Everyone has a different version of the answer, but I think one of the most powerful conversations I had was actually in New York. It was actually at Aqueduct, believe it or not. The only time I went there, we had a horse run. Ran
Mhm.
second. It was a great experience. But he mentioned, it was like when the OTBs came out, it was great at first because handle popped back up. And, people were a little bit excited about racing, but it really diminished the on-track experience. And because people weren't going to the track, kind of like we said earlier in this conversation of like maybe your grandfather brought you to the track and kind of hear those stories how you got in. It's like, I think the reliance on slot dollars, like kind of like you were saying, makes us vulnerable. And I think the lack of emphasis on the on-track experience, to me, is one of the larger problems that racing needs to kind of sort through.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think that, I mean, you can open up your phone and bet on anything, anywhere, at any time. And like that does detract from people going to the races. So, I mean, obviously, it'd be great to incentivize people. Like, hey, maybe show up to the track, you get X amount. And obviously, I don't know how all of the money will work out because feasibility is definitely an important part. But getting people to the track for the experience, I think, is how you're going to be able to kind of bring that back to life. And I think by putting in money to like new renovations and making it lively, like a place that people want to go, is really important. But I mean, like growing up in Massachusetts, I mean, Suffolk Downs was always like, we'd go to the Mass Cap, and like I have very vague memories of it, but now it's abandoned. I mean, there's nothing there. They're going to tear the whole thing down and put in a new like little city center thing there. And it's sad to see because at one point, I mean, that was a lively place to be. I mean, they had $500,000. They had bonuses for horses that competed in the Triple Crown races, where if you came and then tried to ran in the Mass Cap, I mean, I think there was like a $500,000 bonus just if you had been in some of those races to try and draw people there. But getting people to the tracks is honestly one of the harder things to do because, like I said, you can just open up your phone, bet on anything, anytime, anywhere. And I do think to an extent you do have to kind of adapt and change with the times, but you gotta give people a reason to want to go to the tracks. So, I mean, granted, I don't have the solutions. If I did, I think it'd be a different story. But I I think that's where I feel some level of responsibility to bring people to the tracks because you can't replicate the feeling of going up to the window that's been there for hundreds of years, and you give them a couple bucks, you get your ticket, and you sit there and you watch the race, and you watch people like swinging their ticket right at the horse as they're coming down the finish line. Like that, you don't get that anywhere else, and it's such a unique experience. But I mean, you got to bring people there. And like I was thinking about it earlier before we hopped on this, I was like, I wonder what a good way to bring more people there. It's like anybody that's in the horse racing business, pick a day. One day you bring one of your friends. And if everybody brings one friend, there you go. You doubled your audience. Like it's simple little things. Obviously, you got to incentivize people, but like bringing them there to the track so they can experience it because once they do, generally they're hooked. Like I really can't recall any of the times I've brought friends to the track and they've been like, "Oh, that was no fun." Like they just always come back and like, "Remember that time at the track? Remember when we did this?" Like those are lifetime memories, and it really. I mean, you gotta lead by example. You gotta bring people there.
Yeah, it's awesome. I think it's like Chris Sutton. He runs like Paddock Pat.
Mhm.
He's just getting into ownership. He claims horses in West Virginia and runs them, and he's having some success. And I think he summed up really nice because like he had a horse running, and the guy next to him was screaming for the same horse. He's like, "That's my horse that won. That's my horse that won." The guy with
Mhm.
the $2 win ticket was saying that, and Chris
Yeah.
is saying to him, and he's like, "Actually, I own this horse." And he's
Yeah.
like, "That's the beauty of it is like whether you're $2 bet or you're the person that's shelling out, 500K at the Saratoga sale. Like, at the end of the day, it's like it's your horse for those 2 minutes,
Yep.
and there's so many memories that are formed around it, and just kind of leaning into that and kind of respecting the tradition, the whole 9 yards. I don't know. Have you ever been to Oaklawn?
I
Random, but
haven't. I haven't. So I've got a set of friends that they actually have their own extreme racing stables. They're out of Minnesota. They have horses at Canterbury. They've got horses that run at Oaklawn. And I get texts from my buddy Taylor all the time, be like, "Hey, when are we going to Oaklawn? Hey, when are we going to Oaklawn?" And I was like, "Dude, I love you, but I have to be down in Florida with our horses. Like, I would love to just be able to hop over." But he said it's such a fun experience because it's like everything's right there and there's nothing else around other than the track. And he loves it. And I've heard great things, but yeah, never haven't been there.
I think like to me, that to me, I feel like is the gold standard of what racing should look like nowadays. I think they've done a great job of marrying the casino to the racetrack and having it all be one, cohesive unit and having like, I think so many of these like racinos that exist, like
Yep.
you go and you don't even know the racetrack's there. Where Oakland, okay, the racetrack is the main attraction, and then it's like it leads into the casino, but the casino is all, horse racing related, and it leans into that history and tradition, like you were saying. I think more tracks are doing themselves a disservice by not leaning into that, because I think it's it's so easy to think they're okay, like, and it's nerve wracking that like the sports are relying on slot dollars, but it's, to me, it's such a missed opportunity that these racinos don't realize what they have too. Like, they spend all this money. Like, I passed by freaking parks,
Mhm.
billboards on 287 on the Parkway in Jersey, and it's like they're just, they're billboards like everything else. It's like just people throwing dice, whole nine yards. It's like, you realize you have this like product that's been around for hundreds of years, America's original sport, and instead of like using it to help market your other offerings, you really just view it as, like a loss leader, which is crazy to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely it's interesting to try to analyze the combination between racetracks and casinos. Like, I was taking a couple classes through the University of Louisville. They have like an equine certificate program where it's like 6 classes, and one of them is focused on the casinos and the racetracks. I've always thought that it is a double-edged sword with that like marriage between the two, because then you sort of are like, yes, it's great to have extra purse money. It's great to be able to put money into racing as a product of having other gambling options there. But then you're also sort of reliant on the success of another industry or the success of another, like, if the casino's not doing well, the racetrack's going to hurt even more. So they've sort of hitched their wagon to it. But I mean, on the flip side, you see, if the casinos are doing well and there's good revenue coming from that, like, it directly benefits. I mean, like, you get places in Kentucky that are like, their purse money has gone through the roof because of that. They've been able to bring some money in from other revenue sources. But yeah, I go back and forth. It's really it's kind of a tricky thing with the gambling side from other industries, where you really, like, there isn't a perfect answer for it, because I don't think racing ever had the intent of all of these other ways to gamble, like CAWs coming in. Like, racing wasn't designed to accommodate those things. So it kind of pins you in a little bit of a weird situation of what's the best way to go about this. And I mean, like, you see Florida and they're decoupling the bills and they're trying to separate those two. I mean, you go from like, okay, well, without racing, those things would have never existed in the first place. So what, you're gonna then turn around and then just be like, all right, see you later? Like, I don't know, it rubs me the wrong way. But again, I'm not the one making those decisions. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy, but it's a good segue though, because I'm gonna point it back at you. You're not the guy making the decisions per se, but the whole like magic wand question I usually ask is, okay, if you could change one thing about racing, like you are the person making the decisions, you are the person that has final say, everyone's gonna buy in, you have unlimited money, the whole nine yards, like what would that one thing be? Then I'm gonna add on to it too after you finish it, because
yeah,
like I think that question's a little bit limiting, and it's kind of inspired by like TDN's doing that like racing in 2036 thing. So I'll give you the magic wand question, and while you think about that, just kind of envision what racing would look like in 5 to 10 years, and maybe you can kind of tie those two answers together in terms of how that one magic wand change leads into what racing looks like in 5, 10 years.
yeah.
I'm gonna put you on the spot.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of difficult because there's so many different little elements that you think could make a change that would help benefit. So, like, bringing the next generation in and making it cheaper for people to get in the industry. Do I think that's something that's feasible? Probably not. But I think if I could change one thing, it would be to sort of add more like series, how they have like the win in your ins for the Breeders' Cup, having the Triple Crown. Like, so maybe adding a 4-year-old Triple Crown. So you add 3 or 4 races. So then people have something to follow year in and year out. I think what this year was so cool is you'd had that older horse class of really talented like 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds that continued on as their 4-year-old class, and it gives people something to latch onto for a couple of years. Like, we're lucky where our partnerships, when we have people buy in, they buy in as yearlings, and you're kind of on the hook to follow something for 3, maybe 4, maybe 5 years. I think if you could find a way to kind of keep people involved over a long period of time, like, you'd be able to create generational fans. I mean, like, people always say, oh yeah, like my grandfather was a fan of like the Jets, so I'm a Jets fan despite the Jets being good. Like that kind of thing. And I think if you could do that somehow, some way, I mean, obviously what you need to have is you need to have a unifying body between all the tracks because they all need to communicate, get along, find a way for it to work. But I think that would be something really cool for racing.
No, that's a great idea. And like, you think back to, old school horse racing, we weren't alive for it, but like the match races, like there were natural rivalries that happened because the horses
Definitely.
just ran more. Like there was just the money in the breeding shed wasn't as lucrative. So like you made
Yep.
the money on the track and horses stayed in training. So yeah, like you were saying, it's like having an incentive structure with those series to keep these horses in training and to keep them running against each other versus like dodging each other. Like I hate the fact where it's like, all right, we're gonna have 3 grade ones for these 3-year-olds for the Derby that are all within the same like weekend and a half. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, like we're kind of burning our bullets because like we're just there's only so many grade ones, only so many good horses, like kind of burning our bullets and like diminishing what it means to be a grade one winner. But we're also like not allowing these horses to face off multiple times where it's like, oh, I'm gonna go to the Pennsylvania Derby because like journalism is pointing towards the Haskell, like sovereignty is going to the Travers, like,
Yep.
oh, look, try to sneak one in Pennsylvania. Like, I think really having the calendar force them to face off would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would just be the problem is people try to get them into different races because the value of having a grade one to your name instantly makes you more valuable at the stud barn. It just
Yeah.
does. Without that grade one tag, you like, yeah, I'm sure you could go find some place that would take the horse and breed them for a couple years, but you really need those. So it's kind of like, I mean, people have decided, hey, let's go to a different track, try to avoid these horses, like you said. But I think creating the competition, like if you could almost say like running in the grade ones is more of the success versus winning the grade ones is the success. Because I mean, like the Breeders' Cup this year, you could make a legitimate argument for almost every single horse that they could have won that race. So
Yeah.
having races like that, it's phenomenal for the industry because you get people to follow like, okay, this is my guy. Like here's who I'm rooting for. But yeah, no, I do kind of see what you mean with that.
Yeah, I just hope we see journalism versus sovereignty more than once this next year because I
Yeah.
love that rivalry. It's like the triple and like because we had this series of the Triple Crown, like you were saying, if we just had
Mhm.
more series with older horses, some money tied to it, so they're incentivized to stay. Like, because dude, I will stand in the journalism pulpit till I die. Dumb because sovereignty like just
Yeah.
does somewhat. I
Yeah.
just love a horse journalism that dances every dance that travels around, does it. Sovereignty shipped to California. One time he
What?
shipped, he got the fever. Like to me, it's like maybe he's a
Yeah.
little soft. I don't know.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing, and that's like the old school saying is like that's why they race is because you never really know. I mean, the long shots have won big races, and then the favorites have also just aired it out. So I do really think it would be cool to see some of these horses go against each other. Obviously, it's not always really in the best interest of the ownership groups, so you do kind of have to weigh those options. But for the fans and for the betterment of the sport, sometimes those things are necessary. Like I'll give Mike Rapoli a huge pat on the back. There's no reason he needed to run fierceness in his 4-year-old career. Like they had deals done way before that to where he didn't need to do that. He like almost took a hit in terms of like his full on payout, but it made some of those races so much better. I mean, you get guys be like, oh, well, this horse is going to win. Here's my solid argument of why he could win. And then you having a solid argument for another couple horses. And I mean, like hearing just the buzz around this past year's Breeders' Cup Classic, it's like everyone was touting it to be one of the best races in the last 20 something years. Like, and the only reason that happened is because you have these horses sticking around. And like I mean, we're pretty old school with like give the horses time and you'll be rewarded. But not everybody's like that because I mean, everybody at the end of the day, if you have say you have an opportunity to go to the stud barn for 10 million after your 3-year-old career versus running them and possibly only getting 5, like it's simple. You take the money. Like you wouldn't be an idiot, but it'd be nice if you could keep them around and and really run them for the competition, because that's what people end up getting hooked for, is like really following those horses, like following teams, like it's the same thing.
Yeah, I think it's like part of it too is like the ownership side. It's like I feel like so many of the decisions now, it's like 95% of it's just related to let's just maximize our ROI. And don't get me wrong, it's important. Like we want it to be sustainable. We want to partner stats, like not be totally money pit, but like at the same time, it is a sport too. Like the Dodgers is taking the luxury tax. Like whoever owns them, I forget the name. Like is just taking down the chain in terms of like money wise. But the banners five forever. Like those memories are gonna form are worth more than get an extra year at stud and get an extra few dollars. Like at some point, it's like you gotta nut up and like compete, not just make it all about the money.
No, absolutely. And like perfect example. So we have great partners at Centennial. Like they're phenomenal people. So we had an offer prior to the Gold Cup to purchase Antiquarian, but not for stud. It was for a racing prospect. And it was a big number. And it was unanimous. Everyone was like, no, we're not selling, because how would it feel to watch him cross the line in the Gold Cup, God, like saying he might win in someone else's silks? And everyone said no, because they already bought in, they're already emotionally invested. Like at that point, the money's not worth it, because the memories, the legacy, all of that. And then he turns around and wins the Gold Cup. It was like, oh my God, the nicest feeling. Because then also we have confidence in our partners that they're not just in it for the money. They're in it for the like purity of the sport and like the competition. And it's just because, hey, I mean, they could have made a pretty good return on their initial investment, but again, like what if he won the Gold Cup in somebody else's silks? How bad would that hurt? So having them stick around and be like, you know what, we're doing it, we're gonna stick around. And I think, like I've said it a couple times, but leading by example, like that's important. So having us stick around, having like Rapoli keep around Fierceness, like having White Birch keep around Sierra Leone, like that stuff matters. And also, when you have those big dogs that are running back again next year, of course you want to go beat them. Like it's good, healthy competition. Like why would you're telling me I wouldn't like to be sitting in the winner's circle with them? Not like that's great. And they feel the same way about us. Like but it's good, healthy competition. You need to kind of promote that. But like I said, you got to lead by example. And sometimes you got to make the pseudo tough decision to keep going. But I mean, it pays off. Like not selling when we had an opportunity to then turn around and win the Gold Cup. Like that's worth 10 times more than the offer was given to us. Just those memories, they're irreplaceable. Like you can't buy those. I mean, people spend millions and millions of dollars to try to get to that winner circle, and like it doesn't guarantee it. Money does not guarantee your success in this industry. And the competition, just being a part of it, like being active, I don't know. That's why you get hooked on it.
Yeah. That's probably one of my favorite stories ever told in this podcast. Not gonna lie, because it's like that to me is what it's all about. And I think it's kind of a microcosm, I think, to like just society in general nowadays, where everything's kind of about dollars and cents. And no, I'm all for the capitalistic society, but I'm also all for competing too. And I think it's important that people care about that.
Yeah, it's so important. And like I said, we're very fortunate to have really good partners that and that's the other thing, is they sort of can afford to be competing and like to not just take the payout. Some people, like, they would, in certain circumstances, they would need the money, and that's totally okay. Like if that's what what you need to do, that's what you need to do. But having good competitors in the industry makes it all better. But yeah, turning around, being able to, and like when my dad got the initial offer, we were like, okay, well, this is big. And then he was like, well, how do I present this to everybody? I was like, in black and white, tell them pros and cons of both, because you can make a legitimate argument for either side. Because say we got the offer, declined it, and he ends up dead last, like that could happen. Say we don't take the offer, or vice versa. Like you never know. I mean, that's kind of the big question mark in racing. But again, that's why they race. That's why you're a part of it. And it really, like, being able to, like, there's a picture of my dad when right after Antiquarian had crossed the finish line, and we were lucky to have a bunch of box seats with everybody close in Saratoga. And you can just see he has the biggest grin on his face looking at everybody because his happiness came from watching how happy the rest of the partners were. And it's just such a great picture of him. He's like, look at it, we did it again. Like, here we go. And it's so special. Like you can't take those memories away. You can't like it's great. That's why people do it. It's why they partake in racing.
I guess probably a good way to wrap things up. If you want to get into rapid fire, I'll pause here if you've got any other ideas that came to your head in terms of incentivizing the competition, different ways to grow the sport. Anything else you want to touch on before we go into rapid fire questions?
I don't know. That's kind of really it. I mean, I think you gotta lead by example. You gotta carry the torch. Like I'm fortunate enough to have some history coming behind me where I can kind of stand there and speak from experience versus just like desire to be a part of it. So I've seen a lot, and I don't know. I think it's a great sport, and I always try to bring new people in because once they experience it, it's hard to get them away from it.
Love it. Oh yeah. All right, let's get into rapid fire questions. They're going to be mostly one word, two word, like one sentence kind of answers. That's cool.
Sounds good.
All right, favorite racetrack.
Saratoga.
All right, favorite horse of all time. Could be still running, could be retired, the whole 9 yards.
Favorite horse of all time. I'm gonna have to say American Pharaoh. Watching him win the Triple Crown, there was a deafening sound having him barrel through like that. Like I got goosebumps thinking about it.
That's awesome. All right, what is your favorite thing about horse racing?
I know you said like short answers, but this is sort of a longer one. I think that it doesn't matter your background. Everybody can find a love for it. You can be a multi-billionaire or you could be working paycheck to paycheck. You're going to be standing next to that person cheering on a horse. Like there's not another place in the world where you're going to get billionaires bumping into people that could use a dollar every day.
Yeah, it's awesome. All right, next one is, what is your favorite race day? Like big race day, like Derby Day, Belmont Day, Travers Day.
At Saturday of Breeders' Cup.
It's fair. It's fair. It's fair.
Yeah. Best caliber of horses.
Yeah. All right. Next two could be like racing related, could be unracing related. When you hear the word successful, who is the first person you think of?
I guess this is kind of more of like a conceptual answer. The person who achieves what their goals of success were. So like if you say, okay, your goal is to make $1 million, if you've made that $1 million, you're successful. Like that's it. Completing goals. I mean, that can be anybody.
Yeah, it's a good way to think about it too. It's like it's kind of just planting your flag and then sticking to it, and it's about being consistent and staying true to what your values are.
Yeah, in the eyes of the beholder, kind of thing.
Yeah, 100%. All right, you're a young dude. I think we're the same age and graduated high school the same year.
Yeah.
But any advice to your younger self?
Trust. Just trust the process. Just go with it. Yeah, because it is like life's crazy. I mean, like I was pretty set on not being a part of the racing world, and I trusted myself, went and did some other things, and of course I'm back to where I feel happiest. So yeah, just trust it.
Oh yeah, it's a good one. All right, well we'll finish with this one. Like kind of parting words for like the audience, but I'm gonna put a spin on it here. Like you're speaking to like the next generation of leaders in racing. I think you are one yourself, but if you kind of had to give, a little like, was it stump speech in terms of like, motivate the next generation of racing leaders, what would that look like?
Yeah, I mean, we sort of like touched on it earlier, but I think learning from the past to benefit the future. So, I mean, luckily we have like historical records of when things were great, when things weren't so great. So learn from the past, take the good from what it is, maybe leave some of the bad that was in that parts because nothing's all good and nothing's all bad. But take what you can from history and try to make it better for the future.
Hell yeah. It's a great way to finish. Donald, appreciate you having us on.
Yeah.
You joining us.
Yeah, thanks, man. Much appreciated.
Appreciate it.